The wedding of the year was a spectacle no one could ignore. At just 28, tech mogul Alex Sterling, with a net worth that could buy a small country, was marrying Evelyn Reed, a woman who had just celebrated her 70th birthday. The tabloids went wild. Was it a publicity stunt? A desperate cry for a mother figure? Or was it, against all odds, true love? The ceremony itself was an understated affair, held in the gardens of Evelyn's historic estate, a place she had lived in for over 50 years. Friends and family, a mix of Silicon Valley's elite and Evelyn's quiet circle of artists and academics, watched as Alex, with tears in his eyes, vowed to cherish Evelyn for all their days. "Age is just a number," he told the press, his arm wrapped protectively around his new wife. "Evelyn's soul is the most vibrant I've ever known." For a while, their life was a picture of unconventional bliss. Alex, who had lost his own parents in a car accident as a teenager, seemed to find a sense of peace and home with Evelyn. He'd often post pictures of them, not on yachts or private jets, but in her garden covered in dirt or in her library, reading side by side. The public, initially cynical, started to soften. Maybe this was real. Maybe love really did defy all logic. Alex's business partners were less romantic. They saw Evelyn as a liability, a strange distraction for their brilliant CEO. Whispers in the boardroom grew louder. How could he be focused on the next big acquisition when he was busy playing house with a woman old enough to be his grandmother? The first crack in their idyllic world appeared 6 months into the marriage. It arrived in a plain manila envelope, delivered by a courier to Alex's office. Inside was a single grainy photograph of a young boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old, with startlingly familiar blue eyes, Alex's eyes. Tucked behind the photo was a simple, handwritten note. "He deserves to know his father." Alex's blood ran cold. He had no children. His past was an open book, a story of a lonely orphan who built an empire from nothing. This had to be a scam, an attempt to extort money from him. He hired the best private investigator money could buy, a discreet man named Miller, and told him to make this problem disappear. "Find out who sent this and what they want," Alex ordered, his voice tight. "No one, especially not Evelyn, is to know about this." Miller was good at his job. Within a week, he had a name: Sarah Jenkins, a former intern at one of Alex's early startups, a company he'd sold off years ago. She now lived a quiet life in a small town hundreds of miles away. According to Miller, she had left the company abruptly and disappeared. There was no record of a child. Alex felt a wave of relief. It was a bluff. But the image of the boy's eyes haunted him. Against his better judgment, he decided to handle it himself. He told Evelyn he was going on a short business trip, a lie that tasted bitter on his tongue. The town was as unremarkable as its name: Oak Creek. Sarah Jenkins lived in a small, modest house with a neat little garden. Alex sat in his rental car for an hour, his heart pounding a nervous rhythm against his ribs. Finally, he saw them. Sarah emerged from the house, holding the hand of the boy from the photograph. The boy was laughing, a bright, carefree sound that carried on the wind. And his eyes, they were undeniably Alex's. The world tilted on its axis. It wasn't a scam, it was real. He was a father. He got out of the car, his legs feeling like lead. Sarah's face went pale when she saw him. "Alex, what are you doing here?" The boy, whose name was Leo, hid behind his mother's legs, peering out with curious, intelligent eyes. That afternoon, in a quiet park cafe, Sarah told him the story. They'd had a brief, intense affair during a stressful product launch. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness for both of them. When she found out she was pregnant, she was terrified. Alex was on the verge of his first major breakthrough, and she knew a scandal could ruin him. So she left. She never wanted to ask him for anything. She built a life for herself and her son. "Then why now, Sarah? Why after all these years?" Alex asked, his voice raw. Sarah hesitated, then pulled out her phone, showing him a recent article about his wedding to Evelyn. "Leo saw your picture," she said softly. "He's smart, Alex." He started asking questions. He pointed at the screen and said, "He has my eyes, Mommy. I couldn't lie to him forever. He has a right to know who his father is." The drive back was a blur. Alex's mind was a storm of guilt, confusion, and a strange, burgeoning sense of connection to the little boy he'd just met. How could he tell Evelyn? Their marriage was built on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. This secret felt like a betrayal that could shatter everything. He loved Evelyn, he truly did. Her wisdom and calm had been his anchor. But now there was Leo, his son, a part of him he never knew existed. When he got home, Evelyn was waiting for him. She took one look at his face and knew something was wrong. "Alex, what is it?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." He couldn't hold it in. The story tumbled out of him, the affair, the child, the meeting. He watched her face, bracing for anger, for hurt, for the end. But Evelyn didn't yell, she didn't cry. She simply sat there, her expression unreadable, her hands folded in her lap. The silence in the grand living room was deafening, broken only by the ticking of an antique clock. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but firm. "This doesn't change how I feel about you, Alex." He stared at her, stunned. "But I lied to you. I have a child with another woman." Evelyn gave a small, sad smile. "You didn't lie to me. You had a life before me, a life I knew little about. This boy, Leo, he is a part of that life. He is a part of you. He is not a mistake to be hidden." Alex was speechless. He had expected condemnation, but instead he received grace. It was in that moment he realized the true depth of his love for her. Evelyn's next words, however, floored him completely. "We must bring him here," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "What?" Alex stammered. "Evelyn, you can't be serious. Bring him and Sarah here?" "Not Sarah," Evelyn corrected gently. "The boy, Leo, he is your son, and this is his home too. He shouldn't grow up in the shadows. He deserves to be a part of your life." "And," she added, her eyes twinkling with a resolve that Alex knew well, "I've always wanted to be a grandmother." The sheer audacity and generosity of her suggestion left Alex breathless. He had married her for her spirit, and once again, she had shown him a capacity for love and acceptance that he could barely comprehend. The arrangement was as unorthodox as their marriage. After a series of difficult emotional conversations, Sarah agreed. She didn't want to stand in the way of her son knowing his father, especially when Alex's wife was so welcoming. Leo began spending weekends at the estate. The first visit was tense. Leo was shy, overwhelmed by the size of the house and the presence of these two relative strangers in his life. But Evelyn had a way with him. She didn't try to be a mother or a doting grandmother. She was just Evelyn. She showed him the secret passages in the old house, taught him the names of the birds in the garden, and read him stories from her vast library, her voice calm and steady. Alex watched, his heart a mix of gratitude and wonder, as his elderly wife and his young son formed an unlikely, beautiful bond. They would spend hours together, Leo's youthful energy a stark but wonderful contrast to Evelyn's serene presence. He was healing parts of Alex he didn't even know were broken. The public, of course, was in a frenzy. The headline screamed, "Billionaire's secret son, elderly wife plays grandma." But for the first time in his life, Alex didn't care what the world thought. His world was right here in this strange, wonderful, blended family he had accidentally created. He had his brilliant, loving wife, and he had his bright, beautiful son. It wasn't the life he had ever imagined for himself, but it was more real and more full of love than anything he could have ever engineered or acquired. Looking at Evelyn and Leo laughing together in the garden, Alex knew he was the richest man in the world, and it had nothing to do with his bank account. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more.